Hello YouTube and welcome to this, the fourth video in my route learning series for Train Simulator 2015. Today we'll be going from London Bridge to London Victoria via Denmark Hill in a class 455. We'll be calling at all stations, which is South Bermondsey, Queen's Road Peckham, Peckham Rye, Denmark Hill, Clapham High Street, Wandsworth Road, Battersea Park and London Victoria. The journey should take around 25 minutes. So this is the Class 455. Class 455s have been in service since 1982 and were built by Brell at York. They're a British Rail second generation electric multiple unit. 137 of them were built and they're divided into 4 coach trains each. The total length of each unit is 265 feet and the weight is 135 tonnes. They operate using the 750 volt DC third rail system. And the maximum speed is 75 miles per hour. In the driver's cab we have a 4-step power controller, steps from 0 through to 4. We have the reversing handle. The AWS self-test sequence has been simulated. In front of us we have the speedometer measured in miles per hour, as all trains in the United Kingdom are. Then next to that we have the brake gauge, which shows how hard the brakes are applied. And as you can also see to the left, I have the brake handle, which is a standard Westcode 3-step brake. So we have the released position, where you'll see the brake gauge pointing to 0, step 1, step 2, step 3, which is full service, and finally emergency, which you would never normally use unless it was an emergency. Also up here we have the driver's reminder appliance. You'll generally turn this on to remind you if you've got a red signal ahead, and you will only turn this off when the signal has been cleared. Now that we've been given the right of way at London Bridge, our starting speed limit here is 20 miles per hour. I'm not going to go above step 2 power to take us up to 20. As in this train it makes very little difference to the acceleration rate. I generally only use step 3 and 4 of power once we're doing above 20 miles per hour. I don't know if this is accurate or not because I'm not a real driver, but I try to drive as realistically as possible within the simulator. Now we've reached 20 miles per hour, I've shut off power to let the train coast until the next speed board, which is a speed limit of 60 miles per hour, which will be coming up shortly. Now see we've just passed the 60 mile per hour speed board, and you can be sure that the back of the train has passed the board as you pass under the next signal just ahead. As we're doing slightly below 20 miles per hour, I'm now going to increase the power. "60 miles per hour is the fastest speed limit on this journey. However, because most of the stations are very close together, we won't often get to that speed. Ignore this Morpeth board just coming up on the left, as it's for trains that are diverging to the left and not for trains that are going straight on, which is what we're doing. Apologies for the lag that's going on here. Unfortunately, with the busy area around London Bridge, this route's a bit of a frame rate killer, especially when recording. It should smooth out in a minute. Now we've reached 60 miles per hour. I've shut off power to let the train coast. There's actually a speed reduction now coming up of 45 miles per hour, which is what that Morpeth board was for. As we cross this girder bridge, I'm going to go into step 1 braking. That should reduce the speed nicely in time for the 45 board. The 45 board is actually only a quarter of a mile from the platform at Bermondsey. Sorry, South Bermondsey. So I'm not going to release the brakes, and just after I pass the board I'm going to go into step 2 braking to ensure that we stop in the right place. The stopping point for 4-coach trains is actually halfway along the platform. I recommend trying to enter the platform no faster than 25 miles per hour, preferably slightly less. The 3 and 4 car stop sign, you can probably see it now, is just by the CCTV monitors in the middle of the platform. Now going to release the brakes and then reapply them into step 1 to try and stop in the right place. Now that we've been given the right of way at South Bermondsey, the speed limit departing the station is still 60 miles per hour. Though I recommend shutting off power as you reach 50 miles per hour, as the next station, Queen's Road, Peckham, isn't that far away, approximately 3/4 of a mile. Now we've reached 50 miles per hour, I'm shutting off power to let the train coast. The line now joining us from the left is the London Overground line to Highbury and Islington. In fact, it's London Overground that now operates services over this route, and from what I understand, Southern no longer operate services from London Victoria to London Bridge via Denmark Hill. As we reach that signal after the junction, I now applied the brakes into step 2 to try and bring the speed down. Looks like I brake slightly too hard. The stopping point at this platform for 4-coach trains is right at the other end. And now as we're halfway through the platform, I'm going to go into step 2 braking to ensure that we lose enough speed to stop at the S car stop sign. The S means all trains should stop there no matter what their length. So I was just fanning the brakes between step 1 and 2 to try and stop in the right place. now that we've been given the right of way at Queen's Road, Peckham. Remember that the speed limit is still 60 miles per hour. However, we're pretty close to the next stop of Peckham Rye, so we definitely won't be able to get to 60 before we have to slow down again. As we approach this bridge, I recommend shutting off power, and then as soon as we start to enter the next left-hand curve, make a step 2 brake application. The stopping point at Peckham Rye is about 2/3 of the way up the platform, and you can see we've got a Morpeth board there for a 20 speed restriction, which will come into force just after we depart from Peckham Rye. I stopped slightly in front of the 4-car stop sign there, but not to worry. So the speed limit that's in force is technically 60 miles per hour departing from Peckham Rye. However, due to the speed reduction to 20 miles per hour coming up, there's no point in going above that. So as soon as we reach 20 miles per hour, I will idle the power and let the train coast until we're able to accelerate again. Notice that we're now running as a 4-track line, and that's because southeastern lines to North Kent have now joined us on the right. As you can also see, we just passed the 45 mile per hour speed board. Once we've passed this signal, we can be sure that the back of the train has passed and we can accelerate. Though Denmark Hill, the next stop, is actually very close now, so we'll be braking for that in a few seconds. I recommend shutting off power at 35 miles per hour and just letting the train coast. As we pass under this bridge, we'll see Denmark Hill Station, and I recommend applying the brakes just as we're passing under. I've made a step 2 brake application to try and bring the speed down nicely. And the stopping point's about 3/4 of the way along the platform here. Just been fanning the brakes between step 1 and step 2. I believe our stopping point is roughly there. As we depart Denmark Hill, the speed limit is still 45 miles per hour, though it will shortly be dropping to 30. As we pass this Morpeth board for the 30 speed limit, we're at just over a third of a mile from the limit itself. I recommend shutting off power as we go under this gantry here. And then just after we've entered the left-hand curve, I recommend going into a step 1 brake application, just to bring the speed down to 30 in time for the board itself. Now we've reached 30 miles per hour, I've released the brakes and I'm just going to let the train coast. We will shortly be going downhill, at which point we're going to need to use the brakes to control the speed. As we cross this bridge, Brixton Station is just to our left, and we're crossing the line from London Victoria through Brixton. As we leave this bridge, we're now on a downward gradient, currently of 1 in 137, so the train will start to pick up speed. If you reach 30 miles per hour, then I recommend braking until you're back down to 27. And then release the brakes and let the train coast back up. Now past a 45 mile per hour speed board. Once we reach the next bridge, just crossing the track, we can be sure that the back of the train has passed. We can accelerate to 45. As we're still going downhill, I recommend shutting off power around 40 miles per hour and braking for the next stop at this signal here. Going straight into a step 2 brake application. It is actually downhill into the station, so you may find that you need to step up to step 3. The stopping point here at Clapham High Street is at the end of the platform. Departing Clapham High Street, the speed limit is still 45 miles per hour, but the next stop, Wandsworth Road, is only about a third of a mile away. I recommend shutting off power at 35 miles per hour and braking at this bridge here. still going downhill, so I recommend using a step 3 brake application, especially as the stations are so close together. And you can see that the stopping point is right near the end of the platform at this S stop sign. Departing Wandsworth Road, the starting limit is 45 miles per hour still, and we're actually on a 1 in 90 downward gradient. The speed limit over the points coming up here is 30 miles per hour, so we can't go above that. The train couldn't reach that anyway at this point. And now we've crossed the points, we're going up to a gradient of 1 in 44. Use step 2 power and you'll roughly hold the speed. We've just passed a 45 mile per hour speed board, and we can accelerate to that as we cross this part of the bridge here. Go straight into full power and accelerate towards 45 miles per hour. However, we won't be able to get to that before we need to start slowing down for Battersea Park. So now as we reach 38 miles per hour, I'm going to shut off power. And as we enter this right-hand curve, I'm now going to make a step 2 brake application to ensure that the speed comes off nicely. There is no clear 4-car stop marker here at Battersea Park, so I recommend stopping by these CCTV monitors on the left. Departing Battersea Park, the speed limit quickly drops to 20 miles per hour as we have to cross a set of points onto the upslow towards London Victoria. As we reach 20 miles per hour, I'll now shut off power and let the train coast. Once the rear of the train has crossed the points onto the upslow, we can then accelerate to the line speed of 45 miles per hour. As you can see, we're passing Battersea Power Station on the right. Once we reach the rear of the signal that we're just going under now, we can then be certain that the back of the train has passed over the points and we can accelerate. I recommend shutting off power at 30 miles per hour, as there will shortly be a speed reduction back down to 20. I recommend making a step 1 brake application just as you've passed over the AWS for this signal to slow down for the speed limit, which comes just after the signal. I recommend you keep the brakes on until you're down to 15 miles per hour, as we're about to be going on a steep downhill gradient of 1 in 62. see, we've quickly coasted back up to 20 miles per hour. So once again I'm applying the brakes down to 15, and then I'll release and let the train coast once again. The 9 above the signal there indicates that we're going to be going into platform 9 at London Victoria. As we come into the platform at London Victoria, I'll make a step 1 brake application to slow down to 10 miles per hour, and then I'll coast at 10 towards the end of the platform. So here we are, arrival at London Victoria. I hope that you've enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.